hip abduction isometric hold for connective tissue architecture, and we're doing this with a band. So what I'm going to do is do this one leg at a time. I'll show you without the band really quickly. So I'm just going to get into this sort of half kneeling position on one side, and I'm going to come out with my other leg over here to get a bit of a stretch through the adductors on this side. So this is hip abduction. So I could do this without a band, and I get to here and I just get a nice little stretch here, and to get a bigger stretch, what I do is I kind of imagine there's a string sort of pulling this hip that way and sort of bow my spine and hips there a little bit, and that'll put a bit more load on here. And that there is a stretch. So you can actually do this here, and there's a video that shows that. But what we're going to do is going to do the same thing just with resistance. So I've got a band up here. You've got to obviously anchor this pretty high, or you've got to anchor it high, and you probably wouldn't get into position like this. I'm just doing it awkwardly because I started the video. But basically I'm just going to get into this same position that I just was in, and I'm now there. I want to get into a bit of a stretch. I've got that stretch. Now for me, your program will tell you what intensity you want to do this at. For me, this is about a 30-40% intensity on this tissue to keep my foot here. So that's the 30 to 40% resistance on that band. So, you know, you can do it like this. You can obviously have a lower anchor point. You could even do this standing, actually, which I'm going to show you because it may be an easier one for you to set up. I'll actually just zoom out or out on the camera so you can see it while I stand. So I can actually just pop my foot through here and get into basically a similar position. I've just kind of got to waddle out a little bit, and then I just push this hip down, and I've got a bit of a stretch here. So this will just give you a little bit more freedom to figure out like resistance setups, things like that, because your foot doesn't obviously have to be all the way down the floor. That doesn't have to be as high, all that kind of stuff. But all you're basically going to do is you're going to be here, and to start with, you're probably doing this for a 2-minute period, doing it for 30 to 40%. So just find where you've got to use about 30 to 40% just to keep your foot on the floor without other things moving. And you're going to try to do this for 2 minutes. Now, to start with, you probably won't be able to last 2 minutes. This tissue will fatigue. Let's say you make it for 30 seconds and you're kind of like, oh, like it, you can feel like this is really starting to fatigue. I don't want you to come out of the stretch and you rest, but you can rest. All you got to do is just literally put your hand up there, and I'm pushing down on my leg. So now that tissue's not really doing as much work. So I just chill here. When I feel like I'm rested enough to go again, just slowly take your hand off and go again. So let's say you're doing 30 seconds at a time because you need to rest. You're just going to go for 4 lots of that. So you're going to accumulate 2 minutes worth of work. Your goal as you go, obviously, then is to go for longer periods before you need to rest, or possibly even being able to get to a point where you can do a full 2 minutes. The next thing you may get to in your program is some HIMAs and some reactive strength stuff. So it's basically the same thing. It's just rather than trying to go for 2 minutes, and now you're actually just doing a work to rest ratio of whatever it says in your program, 3 to 1 or 5 to 1. So let's say you're doing 5 to 1 work to rest ratio. All it means is I'm here, and then here I'm doing work. So I'll do that for 5 seconds. Then I'll put my hand on top of there for 1 second. And as I let go, I'm now doing the work again for 5 seconds. Rest for 1, on for 5. Now, what we're going to be using this one for is to create a little bit of reactive strength. So it's teaching this tissue to absorb force sort of quickly. But to start with, you're going to ramp up over the space of about 1 second. So 5 seconds worth of work. I have a rest for 1 second. And then rather than just take my hand off, I'm just going to take my hand off over the space of 1 second. Then I'm going to be holding for 5, take the force, and then over the space of 1, I let go. So it's 5 seconds on, 1 second off with a 1 second ramp up period. You'll progress that to having a lower ramp up period, or no ramp up period. So it'll be 5 seconds on, 1 second rest, and then up. 5, 1, up. So you're coming off. So then you're just teaching that tissue to absorb force quickly. And that's how you'll progress through that. And I'm going to get this off a bit awkwardly. Enjoy your hips.